This is an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder.
Those of us who grew up in the 70s would be familiar with the name Oscar Goldman. That's the character Richard Anderson played on two shows, The $6 Million Man and The Bionic Woman. Richard Anderson, who had an amazingly long career as a supporting actor in film and TV, died on August 31st in his Beverly Hills home. He was 91. Way back in 1994, I was lucky enough to have a chance to talk to Richard. At the time, he was not only starring in a series of revival made-for-TV movies about the famed bionic characters, he was also an executive producer of said films. It was a chance to talk about the character that made him famous and also delve into his career. Here is part of that interview now. A lot of people, as I mentioned earlier, know you from the role of Oscar Goldman in The $6 Million Man. That show was on for quite a few years in the 70s, along with The Bionic Woman. I understand in this particular installment of the show, you have more of a role than just actor. Is that correct?
That's correct, exactly. The idea of bringing the show back in 1988 as a 2-hour movie was mine, and I took it to the NBC network at that time, and they bought it, and the studio owned it, and they agreed. So we did the first return of The $6 Million Man, Bionic Woman, and out of 90 shows, it was number 4, so that told us all something. And then we did the second one in 1980, and it fared equally as well. And then CBS decided they wanted to do this last January after I talked to them. So as a result, the studio decided by now I should be an executive producer. I did produce the last one as well in 1988. So I'm wearing that title as well, and I find it stimulating because I can have a little more input and also find out more of what Lee Majors and Lindsay Wagner wants to do. And being an actor, I understand where they're coming from.
It doesn't make it any more difficult for you as an actor or as somebody to put on more than one hat in the same production?
Easier in the sense that the more an actor or anyone in the business can know about the other side, the better. It makes it simpler and easier. And of course, you also learn to appreciate, and this isn't necessarily for audiences that even care about, because they don't have to care. They're interested in what they see. But the preparation of a motion picture is something that's quite a job. There's pre-production, there's production, and what we're doing now, which is post-production. We're getting the music this afternoon. We're going to hear it. We've been editing it for a month. We are now going to dub it next week, and for those that are not familiar with that, we're putting all the effects, all the music, all the voiceovers, all the sounds from the different places we've been. It's put in the final editing, and that's called dubbing, and then we deliver it to the network next week or the week after next.
You've played Oscar Goldman for quite some time. Obviously, you're quite attached to the character. Did you think you'd be playing Oscar still when you first took that role in 1974?
Well, I liked that. It had a nice ring to it when my representative called and says, "How would you like to be in The $6 Million Man?" I said, that has a nice sound to it. I somehow got a voice inside that said, I think we're onto something.
We have since heard a lot about bionics in the medical field, but when you first got the script, did it seem a bit far-fetched back then?
You know, not to me. I'm an optimist, so when they talked about cybernetics, bionics, replacing maybe an arm that had been severed at the elbow, and that they can replace it and have it work like a fingers and everything work through the nerve endings, it made sense to me. And of course, we've been on the show 3 years, and a man in Boston had that problem, and exactly the same thing happened to him, and it worked. And of course, today it's just, it's routine.
Over the years in your career, you're probably one of the busiest actors in Hollywood. For people like me who have been couch potatoes, who watched everything growing up on TV, you're one of the people who we've seen a lot of. You had a variety of roles in various television shows, both as series regular or as guest star. What do you think you owe your good fortune to in all these years when, let's face it, and especially in the Hollywood community, a lot of people aren't doing as well as you have on an ongoing basis?
First of all, I'm grateful. And secondly, I try to make myself castable in the sense to be versatile. And of course, the film, I started out actually at, if you look at my works, I started out in live television. And from there went into motion pictures. I was at Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer for 6 years and did 30 movies there and got started in my career there. And then I went to Fox and was under contract there, and then Universal, and did six television series and numerous pictures and miniseries and, as you say, guest appearances. But the thing I felt was the important thing is to be useful. And in any business, durability is a big factor. So I made myself available, and I did my homework.
Going from live television and in series television and into the movies, a lot of people who make that jump to the movies like to stay in the movies and don't return to television, yet you did. Was anybody trying to coax you out of that move when you went back to TV?
Well, frankly, when I went into television, that's where the audience was, and in my opinion, still is. Mm-hmm. We're going to see now. There are people that have been very successful from motion pictures from television into motion pictures, and some have not. It depends on a lot of factors.
Okay. A lot of the characters you've played, I guess before Oscar Goldman, you either play authoritative police figures of some kind, or villains.
Well, they saw an awful lot of me as an authority in the sense that in the Perry Mason series, the last year of its original, I played the Lieutenant Detective Steve Drum, the police element. In Dan August, I played the boss, the head of the police department. In the $6 Million Man, I'm the Washington Man, the Bionic Woman, the Washington Man. In Cover Up, I was the ambassador. And then there were several other series. In Bus Stop, I played a district attorney. So I guess you might say people see me in that direction. But I also wanted to show some versatility and asked to play parts that weren't quite so straight on and the good guy. I thought it might be interesting to play those other parts. So when I started doing one or two, I got a string of villains. Which, listen, those are fun to play too.
Do you ever have to concern yourself with being typecast?
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with being typecast if you're typecast in the right thing. And I can't. I'm very grateful to Oscar Goldman. He's been very good to me, and we have plans beyond this show in terms of more. It's a show that doesn't go away, Peter. It's a show that seems to have durability. We look at Star Trek, and we say, what's happened there? Well, not only are they doing a new series on syndication, but they've done 6 motion pictures, and we have plans to make a motion picture of this as well.
So we
with
could
originals and other people starting out in Bionics. So, and then maybe another syndicated series where some of us will appear occasionally. So it's and when we announced this show, Bionic Evermore, why, the reaction was just phenomenal. People grew up, as you say, with the show, and they have fond memories of it and want to see more of them. So that's really kind of what prompted me to say, let's bring this show to the forefront, because in my opinion, this is what the public want. They want a family show. They want a show that has adventure and action, but also has a medical message.
You mentioned the possibility of syndication down the road and also a major motion picture, but you didn't mention the possibility of network series. Is that out of the question? Will we not?
Not at all. Not at all. I just I don't want to promulgate too much about this. I believe in doing it and then talking about it. But since you seem to be so interested in bionics and the principles in it, I wanted you to know that we have lots of plans for bionics in the decades to come.
Even though you're wrapped up to a certain degree with this particular project, you still do other things. I understand you're also working on a motion picture recently.
Yes, it's called The Glass Shield, and it's a thriller, and was very well received at the Cannes Film Festival Award in 1994 in June, and it's directed by a very talented man, Charles Barnett, who now will be working on another film that he's invited me to join. It's a major role I'm playing, and it will be released in looks like February by Miramax Disney. So we're very flattered to have a distributor of the caliber of Miramax, as you know, did The Piano and is now showing Pulp Fiction, and they're a daring group and have been very, very successful.
You seem to have no problem going from the small screen to the big screen. A lot of people do.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
Why would you say, Peter?
What, your success from going from one small screen to the big screen?
Yeah.
I would say the fact that you're a character actor has a lot to do with it, and that they have an easier transition than leads do, for instance. Is that a possibility?
That's a good answer, yeah. Well, we're going to see. We're going to find out here soon about one person that's decided to go from television into a big picture.
Oh, David Caruso?
Don't you think?
Yep, that'll be interesting. It's ironic that he's being replaced on a television show by someone who made the same move several years ago, Jimmy Smits.
Right.
So it's interesting to see that transition
Well,
take place.
The world is about 3 blocks square, I always say.
With the diversity of roles you've had over the years, is there something that you haven't done yet that you've been wanting to do?
People always ask me what my favorite part is, and I say I haven't played it yet.
So you're still looking for that classic part.
Not really looking. I think if you don't look, it happens better. Don't get in the way of it. Just a philosophy of mine. I find that there are a lot of things going on that you don't have anything to do with, higher powers and all that. So I don't think about that very much. But when something comes along that's really fun, why, I'm glad to do it, and it's whistling to work.
I mentioned earlier that you're a great character actor, and you've been nominated for an Emmy as a supporting actor, and that seems to be what you've done very well for years and years and years.
It's true, and Tommy Lee Jones has proved he can do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Character work, leading work, and it all depends on a great. I'm sure audiences have heard this 1,000 times that timing and whatever you might call it, providence, luck, or blessings, or whatever. You just the whole thing's an adventure, Peter.
Did you ever at one point say, I want to be the leading man? Was that a goal of yours?
Not much about that. I happened to grew up in movies, and I kind of took an analysis of leading men in motion pictures as a boy and looked back upon them. And at Metro, I worked with them all, the big ones, Gable, Tracy, and in various films. And I found out they were all character men. Trained on the stage, played a lot of character roles. And they play a certain part, and then the studios in those days used to write the scripts for those people and made them into what we call first parts, leading men. They don't do that anymore. A great many people play. Look at Bruce Willis; he plays characters in motion pictures as well as leading parts. No, I can't say that I ever differentiated between the two because it never occurred to me. You just play the part you play, and sometimes I see it and say, let's do a series out of it, and that has happened to me on several occasions.
You mentioned there's some things they don't do anymore in Hollywood. One of the things they don't do anymore is they don't have the studio system, which you were part of when you first started. I understand that you kind of bucked the studio system at one time. Well,
there was a chance to, and that proves my point exactly. There was a chance to do a picture that I wanted to do in Germany. An American company. It was called Paths of Glory, and it was directed by a young man called Stanley Kubrick at that time. And it was a picture that has turned into a classic and is played in all the universities and certainly television and revived in theaters. I think it's been playing in Paris for 20 years. It turned out to be one of the great anti-war stories, and I had a major role in that. And that really kicked me into a lot of parts after that. So that was a successful picture on the inside. The town loved it, and I think I had new respect for my work because it was much more serious as a film than the kind of pictures they were making at Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer during the heyday of the stars.
Was being an actor something you always wanted to do?
I guess so, yeah. As a boy, my mother used to allow my brother and I go to movies at a very young age, and I was very impressed by it, impressionable, and felt it was something I needed to do. I guess actors become actors for very special reasons. But it's what I do. It's my profession, and I think acting is a honorable profession, as Gregory Peck has said many times. And my sense is it's not everything. There are other things you do in life. I'm interested in travel and hit the tennis ball a bit, and I'm interested in people, and I read voraciously. I'm a history buff, and I've met an awful lot of interesting people in this world through the film medium, and it's led me in other directions as well, which have been equally satisfying. Balance is the key.
That was a conversation with actor Richard Anderson from October 31st, 1994. Richard passed away on Thursday, August 31st of this year at his home in Beverly Hills. He was 91 years old.
You've just heard an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder. To hear any or all of the full hour-long shows, visit thestufffile.com. Stuff is spelled S-T-U-P-H. That's thestufffile.com. A presentation of Flying Fish Communications.